Welcome to Real Talk with Chris, the podcast where we dive into the entrepreneurial mindset through the lens of real estate. We are uncovering the secrets to building success and creating wealth on your own terms. Whether you're just getting started or aiming to scale, this is the place where ambition meets opportunity. Get ready for real talk and real results. Let's get after it. Welcome to the Real Talk Podcast. Chris Kimura here. We're excited to have you. Episode, I believe, number 49 or 50. Don't remember, but we're there somewhere. I think I might have messed up on that first part of that welcome in that video. But anyways, we were trying something new. We were reformatting this podcast, kind of revamp it a little bit here. But we're excited, always designed around the entrepreneurial-minded person, the guy who's going after it. And I always bring on amazing, talented speakers on this. I try to have some amazing hosts. And this week I have Dylan Nonaka, my boy. I call him the brother from another mother. We definitely met through our paths crossed. EXP has brought us together. It was amazing. I don't know how this all worked, but it just did. And I've been super blessed to be a part of his life and his business because he's such an amazing individual. So I'm excited to have you on the show, Dylan. Welcome, man. How you doing, brother?
Stoked to be back, man. It's fun always doing this almost like once a year, right? We do this, I think. We've been for the last couple of years.
Yeah. I feel like it's like this. Let's recap. I text him and it's like, let's recap. Let's talk about stuff we need to talk. Basically, let's just talk shit because I love talking shit. That's just my people who know me. But Dylan has more of a real statistic database way of talking shit. And I'm like this random talk shit. But anyways, we're super excited. There's a lot going on, obviously, in the world. We just finished 2024. This is actually the first podcast kicking off the new year of 2025. So I'm super pumped for that. And all that we're bringing this year. But a lot of old things that finished in 2024. Obviously, we had a lot of things that came down the pipe, right? The NAR was our biggest thing at the end of the last fourth quarter. Major changes there, which honestly I don't think were major, just kind of revamping things that already been there. But that stirred the pot a bit. Then we obviously had our election finally. Yes, I don't know who's in pro and con of whatever you are, but I'm excited about you.
It's over.
Yeah, we see some changes here coming through in the next 4 years, good or bad, right or wrong, depending on whatever side you choose on. That's your thing, but I'm excited, and I think Dylan is too a little bit. It's kind of who we are in our space, but nonetheless, a lot to talk about, lots happening, a lot of big announcements too. Holy crap, some big movements are happening right now in the real estate industry. Our rates are still kind of high, they are what they are, but definitely we're getting some new talented people that just came on board here to EXP. We're going to talk a little bit about that too. We're going to talk a little about Dylan. He's got some amazing things. He's been growing amazing, huge leaps and bounds over the Big Island. He's now the number one team in EXP right now. Holy shit. Dude, I remember you talking about this a while back, like saying, like, I'm going to throw this dart at the wall, and that's what I'm going to be. I swear, I'm like, oh, I believe you, bro. And here we are. Like, man, you made it. So I'm so proud of you. And just watching you grow has been such an emotional piece for me, but just great to be an honor to be a part of your life and group. But yeah, so just real quick for those who don't, I know you come here every year, kind of give us a little brief intro, man, and reintroduce you to those. Maybe we got some new guests here this year that don't know who you are, but for the most part, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, I get to lead the agency team Hawaii, and we're now a statewide real estate team. I'm based out of the Big Island, and really I got started in real estate full time in 2015 and did it for like 3 years full time at a Coldwell Banker franchise, and then at the end of 18, basically January of 19, it came to EXP and met Chris soon after that, and just came here with a hope and a dream to build something bigger and build a real estate operation that I wanted to be a part of. And it seemed like EXP provided that as a platform, and we had to just build specifically inside of it what we wanted to do. And it's been a wild ride ever since. I mean, went from 5 agents when we kind of first started, my brother and I and a couple of friends, and today we got 150 agents across 4 islands, and did 5 short of 900 transactions last year, 895 transactions. So it's been a wild ride, but yeah, super blessed to just be around folks like you and all of the other leaders that pour into us and collaborate with us and coach us and mentor us. And I always definitely give gratitude to that system, because if you're not in the right, we were just talking earlier about being a level 10 player and a level 5 opportunity, and I think I like to believe that I always have been a level 10 player. I've definitely upped my game in the last few years, but I was in a level 3 opportunity before, which really restricted my growth, and was one of the reasons why I left. Was I felt that restriction come in heavily, and I was like, if I'm gonna be able to go where I want to go, I got to do it someplace else. And luckily, that roadblock was put in place, because I would have never looked at other opportunities if that wasn't there. And so yeah, it's been a wild ride, and super stoked. I mean, lots of lives. My life has changed dramatically, and what's more satisfying is seeing all the other lives that change along the way, and the folks that see success and see growth and start achieving their dreams and taking care of their families. It's amazing.
Yep. I love that. I tell everybody this is the biggest win-win model I've ever seen in the history of real estate, in my opinion. And we've been around collectively. I mean, I have 24 years in this business, and you've been almost over a decade. So it is what it is. I'm going to go back and touch a little bit what you mentioned. I love that comment you said about, let's talk about that a level 10 player and a level 3 playing field. I feel like we're in a video game, right? Like, we're only going to get to certain levels. And as kids, we played a video game and only went to like level 3. We're like, screw that shit. We threw that out the window. Like, we want something that goes all the way. Like, I kind of think of this analogy of somebody who's living in an apartment high rise, and I want to live in a penthouse, but there's not even a penthouse floor, right? Like, I want a penthouse, but there's no penthouse floor ever. So no matter how bad you want the penthouse, you'll never get to achieve it. The space we're in right now, I like the fact that there's so many agents that don't think about that. Like, they don't really think and articulate, like, okay, I want to go in and I'm going to jump in this business. I'm going to crush it. I'm going to, like you said, you have these dreams and aspirations of like reaching high level goals and being the greatest. But in all reality, no matter how much you have wished and manifested and dreamed it, if you didn't have this ability to get to that penthouse floor, you never would have made it. And then at some point, you know, kind of look back like, dude, I failed. You know, like I failed. I didn't reach the penthouse like I wanted to. The penthouse never existed. How many people right now are you talking about in the space? Let's talk about it. I want to unfold that. How many agents do you think right now collectively have gotten the business, who've been in it for 5, maybe 10 years, and are just crushing it, doing their thing, but yet don't really think about the fact that they're not in a hotel that has a penthouse, that they're just playing this game, not knowing that they're ever going to get there? What is the space in which you think that people are thinking that right now, and where they're at playing this game? I call it the game of real estate, you know, and not even in the space they can reach the penthouse sort of thing, you know?
You know, the first thing that's sometimes sad is that I don't know if some people even realize that they're in a level 3 or a level 5 opportunity when they're a level 10 player, right? Because they don't even have the open mind to see other opportunities or potentially evaluate other models. So that's the first one. That's probably the worst place you can be, is if you're like not even recognizing that you're in a place that restricts you heavily. And I always use, like, there's a lot of sports analogies when it comes to business, right? And you see this all the time, where you see like a really high level basketball player, a really high level baseball player that's just kind of on a mediocre team, right? I mean, they got just kind of level 5 players, and they're the only level 10 player on the team, but collectively they're never going to go beyond level 5 because that's their average. And you see them go and join a different sports team, right? They go and get traded to a team with 3 or 4 other level 10 players, and they go and win a championship. And that's definitely applicable in business. Is if you are in an office and you're the top performer in the office, it feels good that you get the accolades and you get the certificate every month, and maybe a little trophy at the end of the year for being a top producer. But hey, maybe you're doing 25 or 30 million and you're the top producer, but could you be doing 60? Could you be doing 100? I mean, have you ever asked yourself that question? And that's one of those things where I think first we really got to look at. And I just always had a delusional belief that I would, I remember starting in the very beginning and looking on the MLS and seeing, all the top performers in the MLS and thinking like, these guys ain't no smarter or better than me. I'm going to be there one day. And just having that attitude and that belief, which maybe sounds crazy, but you got to think that way, right? I mean, you almost have to have that delusional belief, and the only way to manifest it is continue to work towards it. And that's definitely the case. I mean, this is a level 10 opportunity with players there's always somebody doing it bigger and better than you. And even if like the top guys that you think are doing it the best, you get in a room with them, you realize that they're having the same problems as you are, and you're doing something better than them, and they can learn from you, and that's going to up their game, which is going to up your game. And that's what's so cool about it, is getting in those rooms and getting that shared perspective. And I can't even count how many of those conversations I've had over the last couple of years that has just been mind-blowing, shifting, directional changes in how we do business. And sometimes it's just a mindset shift, and that has greatly contributed to the growth. So yeah, definitely. You got to take some time, like think about, am I in, what level opportunity am I in right now?
Yeah.
And I can give you some examples, right? I mean, this is the thing, like I've learned over the years, where it's like, if I look back at just our personal experience in growth, in 1 year, we went from being a single island operation. So our first level of expansion was across to the other side of the island. Pretty straightforward, not a huge big deal. And then we expanded to Maui, and then we expanded to Oahu, and then we expanded to Kauai. If I was in a franchise model, that would not be possible because I'd be competing with the franchise owner that owns over there, and I would not be allowed by my business model to do that. And that would be just a legal restriction that I agreed to by the business model I operate in. And I have agents that have joined us since from other brokerages that say, hey, can I sell on Maui and the Big Island? I'm like, yep, absolutely. No problem. We'll help you do it. And we got people on the ground that'll help you if you're not physically there. You know, we can make that happen, help you grow your business. You could be a multi-island business instead of just in your town. And that's just not a thing at other places. And so that's a big, just practical aspect, right? If you have, the goal to grow is, do you have just roadblocks, procedural policy roadblocks put in place? And really that doesn't exist here. And that's what's super cool is I've pushed the boundaries on absolutely everything. And no one's ever said, slap my hand and says, you can't do that. So the answer usually let us see how we can help. What do you need? And we'll figure it out. Right. Which is amazing.
Right. Together, again, win-win, right? I've collectively seen that too. I love the word delusional used. I think that's at every level, we all need to be a little delusional. I mean, in all aspects, right? Like, yeah, I got that. I'm going to make that happen regardless. But I think there's a lot of pieces of that you're right. Let's take a good look at that. It's something to really analyze this as right next to you creating these new goals for 2025 and all your little like planning, your brokerage, your model, your platform. Are you playing on a level 3 platform with a level 10 mindset and a goal plan? Like if your goals are level 10 and yet you look like you're at a level 3 ability, you might want to reconfigure some things, take a better look at that. And I don't think people do. They're looking at everything else, right? It's like CRMs, applications, all this money I'm going to put out for all my stuff, my systems. Cool. Am I good there? Cool. But all this together, but then you just don't stop and realize, God, I'm still in this level 3 platform and all this stuff is not going to get me there. That's the eye-awakening right there, man.
Here's a quick exercise you can go through to identify this, right? Is a saying that I love is, do you have 10 years of experience or do you have 1 year of experience 10 times in a row? And if you look back on your career, if you've been in this business for any length of time, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 30 years, and have you had the same year, kind of the same over and over and over again? 1 year you do 10, 1 year you do 9, 1 year you do 12 million, right? I mean, if you're just kind of like hovering around that same thing, or sometimes you go up, sometimes you go down, but you never really continue to grow and scale and peak. Do you really have 10 years of experience, or do you just have 1 year of experience over and over and over again? And sometimes it's not your fault. It's because you're in a place that puts you in a box that requires you to have the same year over and over and over and over again. And it's a good mental exercise to go through and just look back at your past history, and that'll usually tell you what you need to know.
Yeah. Success is clues. I love the fact you said about mindset shift. I want to go back to that because you mentioned the word mindset shift. And I think that's applicable to this right here, right? Like if you don't really shift the way you think about things and look at things, then those things are going to continue to stay the same. You're going to stay in the same reformed rut and doing the same things because that groove is comfortable, it's routine. And your mind's kind of become complacent to just kind of be on cruise control. So then you see the results of that. So not only it's time to change the way we look at things, change the way we look at like our business, our infrastructure, our proximity to people we're hanging out with, our everything. It's time to pull back the covers and look at everything, lift the engine up. I'm getting more conversations right now with realtors who, it's funny, they all are saying the same thing. Man, Chris, I'm realizing I need to change. There's some things I need to change. They like admit I'm doing this, that, and the other, right? Like I do this, that, and that, and I know I do it. But boy, and it's followed up with this. I need to make some changes. And I'm like, holy shit. And like, we're tired. So you're like that, right? That person that's doing the same thing, repetition over the same year 10 times in a row because it's the same, like, it's like Groundhog Day. Repeat over. But if you don't want to change that, then that's fine. That's fine. But if you're really looking to accelerate and elevate your business, which you should, gosh darn it, you should want to. It's your duty as a human being on this planet that God puts you on here not to be the same person year after year. You have too much potential for that. And if you sit there, you're not doing your duty. I'm sorry. That's pretty crazy, but I don't think you do your duty.
I got a perfect example of this. I mean, so this is great that we're doing this, right? Because I'm looking back and all this stuff that you're saying, I'm like, yep, I mean, I totally get it. And one of the sayings that I love to that applies to this is strong beliefs loosely held, right? So you can have strong beliefs, but sometimes you have to loosely hold on to them because if there's a better way, if there's a better system, you got to be able to let go and move and pivot. And we're going through an extremely painful growth process right now. We're rebuilding our entire tech stack. So we're changing CRMs, we're changing website providers. I mean, all of these different tech aspects to our business. And I was very reluctant for a long time. We built a massive business on our current tech stack. And I was like, for us to get to the next level, this isn't going to serve our needs. I finally identified that, hey, what do we got to do to get to the next level and even go beyond where we were? If we want to get beyond 900 transactions, what do we got to do? Because there's a way, right? And sometimes you have to let go of the way you've been doing things and change. And so the strong belief is you got to have a solid technology stack. You need a solid CRM. You got to work your CRM. You got to work your system. But the loosely held part of it is the actual CRM you use might have to change, right? The actual system that you use might have to change because it's not serving your needs for where you're at. What got you here doesn't necessarily going to get you to where you're going. And I've kind of done that iteration over and over and over again over the last 5 years. Is like, hey, we got to a certain level of success. A lot of people give you a lot of accolades for and think is great, but you can rest on those laurels and you continue to stay there and do that and plateau, or you can make some painful, significant changes, sometimes expensive changes to get to the next level and to continue to grow. And I have no doubt we'll do over 1,000 transactions next year based on this shift. And that's what we had to do. So it's painful, but it was necessary.
Well, I think growth is always painful, right? Which is why there's only a small percentage of people that do it. Because I think our human nature is to avoid all kinds of pain. It's what it is. So we will try to go around and try to pretend like it doesn't exist. But then again, you're not doing your duty as a human being on this planet if you're not serving yourself up to live your highest potential. I'm sorry, you're just not.
Yeah.
And I think it's all a choice. So a lot of it's mindset, which is led to the next thing. Real quick, I want to touch back. What was your impact for 2024 as it ended? Your numbers are, how'd you do for the year? Like your goals and things and this team, and I know you grew collectively, but how were you guys impacted by the NAR changes? Anything at all? Did you have any major shifts? Like a lot of people out there have conversations about how they're affected, yes, no, or the other. How did that wrap up for you?
So I got some pretty good data to show what the impact was. And it all started with, really in October of 23 is when the word came out that this was coming down. And we immediately implemented training. Like we started implementing strategies. I started going to masterminds. Like I was like, we're going to get way ahead of this thing. So when this thing takes effect, our team is in a position to absolutely dominate the market when everybody else is just figuring it out. And that's basically what we did. We bought for 8 months. We talked about this. We built scripts. We practiced. We figured out new value propositions, new presentations for buyers, and really leaned into what we needed to do to have a strong value proposition for buyers beyond August 17th. And, when it happened, it was like our agents were like, no big deal. Like nothing changed. They just kept doing business. They went out there and were dominating. And we almost did the exact same amount of business in the first 6 months as we did in the second 6 months. So there was no change. So that's a good thing. And when you have that significant amount of a change to have no impact at all, to me, that was huge, because really what we wanted to do was, regardless of what rules we were operating under, we wanted to continue on the same trajectory that we had been going on, which we absolutely accomplished. And so, I was really, really happy about that. And overall, in a market that was down 2.5% overall in the state of Hawaii, we did 2.5% less sales in 24 as we did in 23. Our unit production growth was up 28%. Our volume production was up 32%. We absolutely outperformed the market by a ridiculous amount. And, but that's just a testament to just running the play, doing the work. I'm very proud of the agents who didn't put their head in the sand and get scared and bummed out and the sky is falling and I'm a victim because of the NAR lawsuit and all this kind of stuff, which we saw widespread, right? Widespread amongst the industry. So I'm super proud about that we just continued doing what we were doing. And I think the agents, the real practical implication, I don't have solid data on this, is most of our agents got a raise. Everybody who thought the sky was going to fall. Our buyer value proposition was so strong, and their ability to communicate that and communicate how commissions work to clients was so strong that instead of getting 2.5% when a seller was offering it, they got 3%, because they had the tools and processes to make that happen. So the good agents, I think, actually were positively affected by this, and we're okay with that.
Yeah. I feel like I was just recently watching that podcast and stuff, our interview with Jay Kinder, Albie Stasic, and Boyd Bastian. Those guys were talking about how the biggest person I think that's really feeling pain of this was honestly the consumer. For as much as that they really wanted to target this and make it work in favor, I think it backfired. Because the reality is, they made all these rules and things like you can't put this no longer in MLS, but then they didn't make it go the next step of like, well, you shouldn't put it anywhere then. Why stop there? but they're marketing it. They're finding brokers are finding ways to put it everywhere else, right? So you really didn't fix the problem. You just kind of focused on this MLS thing, and that's where we kind of really targeted it. But in all reality, you didn't fix the bigger problem, and so now we're still seeing the problem. So it's kind of interesting. Like, do you go the next step and you continue on like literally obliterating all this opportunity where agents can no longer put it anywhere, market it anywhere, in any website, any CRM, any marketing, period. And then, wow, will that change? That make a bigger impact for the consumer. So I don't know. I don't know what do you think about that? Like, as far as
so my opinion on that, and this is our team policy, is we don't advertise commissions anywhere. We don't put it in emails. We don't put it on our website because, one, from a liability standpoint, the whole reason we got sued in the first place in the industry is because we were doing that. So to me, when you get sued for something and they explicitly say you shouldn't do this, it doesn't mean go be cute and do it a different way, because that is a bad idea legally. And I think all of those email blasts you guys are sending out with 2.5% buyer agent commission offered and stuff are going to be Exhibit A in the next lawsuit. So if you want to deal with that, you can. I'm not going to deal with that. But really, the beauty of the whole lawsuit from an agent standpoint and a consumer standpoint is it gave consumers choice, it gave consumers options. And I told agents from the very beginning, your paycheck is no longer dependent upon somebody else's ability to negotiate on your behalf, right? Because the way it was before was, hey, Chris, you're a weak listing agent and you go there and you can only negotiate a 4% listing fee, and then I only get 2 because of your bad negotiation skills. Even though I'm a top-notch buyer's agent that does an amazing job for my clients, I was beholden to your ability to negotiate that listing fee. I am no longer beholden to that. If you want to go and work for 2% on the list side, I'm going to go in, I'm going to work for 3% or whatever I want to work for, whatever my industry standard is. I'm gonna do that, and it changed the game. And so, the strong agents that have a strong value proposition, that are trusted by their clients and valued by their clients, are getting a raise. And the ones who deserve to work for less are working for less. And they're going to have a hard time, making it long run. And that's okay. And the consumer gets a choice. You can choose to pay for a high quality agent, or you can choose to pay for a discount agent like you always could. That hasn't changed. It's always been the case. But now it's explicit. And I think over time, markets always take care of themselves, and the low quality, low cost agent that doesn't do a good job is not going to survive. And at the end of the day, clients will not reuse them, and the market will take care of itself, and it'll correct, and the cream will rise to the top as it always does, and the consumer will be served at a high level. So it's all good. At the end of the day, it's all good.
I think so too. I think we're cleaning house like we've ever done in every other bad situation in real estate. We've cleaned house. We've seen it so many times. It's cyclical like that. Awesome. So I agree with you on that on pretty much every point you made. I think this is an amazing opportunity. We're doing this. Business shouldn't have changed one bit. For those that are actually doing the business, they shouldn't have changed business for you one bit. And those that are rising to the top are rising. And we'll always see those people at the bottom that are really just barely hanging on. I call it the bottom feeders, right? Low bottom feeders. And most of them are at those discount brokerages anyways, which is why they're there where they are. But, either way, we're moving on to that. So awesome. We're excited now. 2025 is here. And to end our year for 2024 too, collectively, because of your efforts that you crushed it and so many other amazing people on the Team Freedom group. We did end up meeting the goal, which was super pumped. We did over 3,000. I think it was 3,039, something like that, units. I can't remember. I posted it. And we did 2 billion in volume. For those, again, that were saying all these other issues of the NAR scenarios and all the excuses of why the market and the rain and all this stuff, like every other thing you could talk about, but yet we managed to prevail and do well. And I'm excited because it's people like yourself and hundreds of other ones that are just crushing it and have a mindset that they don't let things like that happen to us. So we're moving forward now, 2025. We're pumped. Let's talk about a series of people that are making moves again too. And it's always the conversation, right? It's like that elephant in the wall, that taboo thing about, number one, franchise world is dead. Let's just say it out loud. And I don't care who's watching, listen to this. Franchise world is dead. I'm sorry. You just can't compete on a margin profitability scale. You just can't. You can't argue all day long. The universal language of
the proof of that, which I love, is if you look in the last 5, but really like the last 10 years, do you see any new franchise models popping up? Ask yourself, right? And the answer is no. every single new real estate company that's gotten any type of traction is a copycat of EXP. So the market is spoken, and yes, those legacy kind of old-fashioned models are going to be around. They'll be around for a while, but anything new and innovative is now going in the cloud-based direction, and EXP was the first to do it. So it was a forerunner and all of that. Yeah.
I agree. I kind of compare it to the old school cars. I love old school cars. I'm a huge old school fan of cars, man. I love them. And I think they're still working. I mean, I can go out and turn the car on, it still works, but they're not like making mass production of them, and they're not being duplicated any longer. They're old relics.
Yeah, nobody's building cars with carburetors in them anymore.
Cars, right? Yeah. We just talking about it the other day. It's like, oh, remember the day of the carburetor? Then we went to electronic fuel injection. Yeah, exactly. Nobody's making mass production of carburetors online and putting in these cars. It's just what it is. And we're not seeing any more blockbusters being built on corners of buildings either. In fact, commercial real estate is probably going to take a little turn for that reason, because we're not going to see soon new uprising of retail space for things of that nature. You just don't. It doesn't make sense anymore financially.
Cars are a great example, right? Every car company has electric cars now, but what's the only electric car company you really think of? The first to market and the largest, which is Tesla. So
always, it's always gonna be Tesla. And I made that point. Even in every scenario, right? Tesla for cars, Amazon for shopping, Netflix for freaking streaming of movies. It is what it is. Now we have a ton of people that are trying to duplicate all these things, but every one of them that comes to mind is like they're the Nike, they're the Coke, they're the whatever of that era and that space, and that's the one you're going to think about. EXP is that. Arguably, I don't care. EXP is it. And I'm not saying it because I'm here. I'm here because I'm smart. That's what I'll say. I'm here because I'm smart. But the second part is that we are first to market. We have created something, and we have literally pioneered the new level of real estate brokerage operations. And it no longer will go back the old way. So moving forward, we see a lot of shiny objects out there, man. A lot of shiny objects, every different model that's taken ours and trying to add like new cool things, right? Which in my opinion, the really only serious value is the word free. That's the only thing you can really throw around anymore that really gets people's attention, in my opinion, which then leads me to the next decision or thought. What kind of people is that really attracting? With the word free, and I get it, I love free too. But I also believe this, what you get what you pay for. So if it's free, it comes with stipulations. It comes with caveats and limitations and little governors of like you said, level 3 platforms that I'm a level 10. So is the free really worth it in that scenario? That's my point. So yeah, we're in a world of free. That is the only word that's being thrown around right now, in my opinion, that makes sense to people that really attract them. So it makes me think twice. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that with the free this and free that?
The one thing I would add to that, I completely agree with free. I mean, you get, I'm always suspect of free nowadays because it always means that you're going to pay at the back end or something's going to be crazy or you got to agree to something crazy. But the other aspect to it is you have to look at an opportunity globally and on the large scale and in the long term versus the short term. And a lot of the competitive models out there, I agree, they look better in the short term. First 3 to 5 years, maybe, there is some advantage there if you're thinking small and you're going to keep an organization small and your operation small. But if you're thinking long term and you're thinking far, you can really extrapolate out and see the limitations that those systems have and those models have. And so it's all a matter of how you kind of look at business and life. And, I always think about like relationships, right? You can always use relationships as an analogy. And like, you can date the hottest girl in school who's absolutely crazy and will become a drug addict and but have a good time for a couple of weeks, right? But if you marry them and you stay with them forever, your life's going to be hell in the future versus you might want to look for the smart girl who can help you in your business and help you grow and be a good mother and all that kind of stuff that in the long term is going to much more affect your life in a positive way than the short-term fun kind of good looking thing that looks like it's going to be a fun time for the short run. So yeah, I think that's a hard thing though for humans to wrap their head around. I know definitely for me in the real estate business, I tell people all the time, this is a delayed gratification business. I mean, the things you do today are not going to pay dividends till 3 months from now, 6 months from now, years from now, potentially. And if you need immediate gratification on the actions that you take today to be able to sustain your motivation and your drive, you pretty much will not make it in real estate. It's impossible. And I just try and apply that globally to the bigger picture. And definitely that's what I see when I'm comparing other opportunities, because I've looked at all of them and I've met with all of them, and I mean, still here. So
you said still here. I get it. You're right. It's that short-term gratification piece. And we all know, again, short-term gratification never really ends up with long-term benefits. It's like anything else. I call it paper burning, right? Lights up really quick, provides light instantly in 2 seconds, but literally it's gone in 5 seconds. And you're struggling and scrambling to find more paper to throw in the pile when you probably should go get a couple of real solid oak logs that will burn for like 4 hours. Then you're golden, right? But then on top of that,
but that's hard because you got to chop those big trees down, right? You got to put in some work up front, where you could just, burn your toilet paper and, get some light for 30 seconds. So,
Agreed. Right. Again, less work, easy, quick, but not long-term sustainability. My biggest thing has always been sustainability. Like I see this picture is everything I want to do is what's the sustainability, longevity of it all? Because I always feel like anything else when, even when it comes to age and attraction part, bringing talent over here, it was never about, judge me on who I get, judge me on who I keep. Because who I keep actually makes more sense. I can attract anybody. Shoot, a white van with no windows gets kids with candy. I mean, right? I mean, it is what it is. Bad analogy. But the truth is, anybody's attracted to something instantly by what they want in life, because it just seems like it's appealing at the moment. And it doesn't mean that it's good, though. In the end, it could be devastating or life, changing. So yeah, I honestly believe at this point, all these conversations we're going to continue to see probably more and more of these cloud-based type environments of brokerages that are going to come onto the space, which is awesome, right? It gives us more opportunity. I think healthy competition is good. Because then also
your point about scale is important, though. That's also I think a misunderstood or overlooked aspect to the game right now, is that being at scale gives you the opportunity and resources to pivot quicker and put more resources into that pivot than you can when you're small and you're growing. And that was a impactful thing we talked about earlier, of one of the huge advantages we have now that we're at scale, and now that we have innovative competitors, which is great. The only way you get better is to have people at your heels, right? Innovating, is if they do something actually valuable and actually innovative. With the way the world works now, is you can just copy it and implement it probably faster and better than they can, because you have more resources to copy that thing and build that thing out. And so that's a huge disadvantage I think competitors have today that nobody's taking into account, is that, hey, if you're on the come up and you come up with this really great idea, we're just going to look at that and say, oh, we can do that too, and flip the switch and do it. And then now you don't have that advantage anymore, because there's no proprietary information in real estate. I mean, it's like, you got a better way to generate leads, or you have a better way to create scripts, or whatever it is. I mean, we can easily duplicate that and implement it. And for those of us who have leveraged that, I mean, that's one of my favorite. I have an R&D department, right? The rip off and duplicate department is we're constantly on the lookout for somebody else doing something really good and effective, and we're going to figure out or I'm just going to ask them, right? If they're in EXP, I just ask them and they give me their system, and they show me how to use it, and I get to use it. So I'm not trying to figure out on a daily basis how to do stuff on my own and make my own mistakes and learn from those mistakes. I can totally learn from somebody else and just rip off and duplicate. So yeah, that's a huge competitive advantage, is the scale and resources to pivot quickly and just adopt whatever everybody else is doing. If it's better than what we're doing, if it's not better than what we're doing, then we'll keep doing what we're doing, and we'll continue to innovate.
Yeah, which leads to the next piece of that. Like, you're right. So if you're in a thought of like, all right, if I'm that competitor that I know at any given moment, whatever I divulge and showcase is something new and exciting and amazing, you can instantly take it and duplicate it, and you're still not better than me. Again, you're still better than me, right? That's where their next value proposition, honestly, is like, okay, well, we'll give it away for free. We won't charge you for it. We'll give it for free. So we'll throw the word free in there again. And again, the free works to some level, because there's just like this gap, this timeline of being able to do free stuff. And then after that window is done, you no longer can do free stuff, because then it doesn't really calculate and it doesn't really work, and it's not profitable anymore. It's not sustainable in that, because it's only so long the free works. And at that point, that's why they can gather who they can gather in that small window of free, and hopefully it gets the flies, they get attracted to the strip. And outside of that, then they're kind of screwed, because they're back to plan A. So yeah, I love it. I am excited about the fact that I want people to actually come up with new ideas and watch people like Glenn and Leo, this guy, the rock star at our helm, that's gonna be like, yep, thank you, and thank you, and thank you for doing the work for us. Appreciate it. And we'll just make it even better and refine it better. So for those right now, again, moving to 2025, a lot of independents right now I would say are probably going through some pains as well, and not good ones, not good growth pains. I think in more financial woes change. I think everybody is really going through is a financial scenario of their businesses, and it's just not adding up anymore. What do you think? What's your thoughts on these guys? What would you think be a thought for them moving forward in 2025 if you're an independent right now and you're like, I'm going to take on the world and build this out and create all this massive stuff, like, because DXP did it, I'm going to do it too. Like, what do you have for that? Like, what do you think for food for thought for that?
I've been having this conversation a lot lately because one of the things that I'm glad I didn't have to learn firsthand was the pain of running a brokerage. And a lot of times, there's really few, unfortunately, there's very few people in the real estate business who want to be a leader, right? Who want to be a broker, who want to take on that responsibility of leading other people. And that's maybe in life in general, but definitely it's few and far between in real estate. And if you have that desire and you're passionate about helping people and helping them grow and building a business, the moment you open a brokerage, now you take on all of the responsibilities. You're the janitor, you're the tech guy, you're the receptionist, you're the bookkeeper, you're the tax guy, you're the compliance guy, you're everything. You're like or you start spending a ton of money and hiring a bunch of people to do all of those jobs. And it takes away from your ability to be the leader that you wanted to be, right? If you have all this great knowledge that you can pass on to other agents, but if you're stuck doing all of those other jobs to try and run your brokerage, you're now not even doing the thing that you set out to do in the first place. And you're probably going to end up unhappy. You're going to end up unprofitable. And we see this story play out, unfortunately, like over and over and over again in our industry. And so there is no way, right? I mean, when I started my search to move on from where I was, one of the first thing I looked into was opening a brokerage. And I just looked at the paperwork it was going to take to just get the license. And then I had to get an office to hang that license in. And I had nobody. It was just my personal production. I'm like, am I going to pay $5,000 a month when I'm making $6,000 a month? It doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, so I didn't know all the gory details back then, but there was enough barrier to entry that it didn't make sense that I looked for other options. And that's the beautiful thing about EXP, right? Is like they take away. I just tell everybody, I outsource for $16,000 a year. I outsource everything I don't want to do in the real estate business and focus purely on agent development, lead generation strategy, all of the stuff that we got to do to grow, not just but everyone's business together. And that's just the beautiful thing about it is we have that opportunity here. And yes, I love when brokers say, well, I don't pay a split. I keep 100% of my commissions. And it's like, let me see your P&L and see how much you paid out last year. And one of the most unhealthy indicators, like the biggest red flag to me, and this is who I want to talk to, right? So if you're out there and this is you, let's have a conversation, is if you're the broker owner of your brokerage and you're the top producer, that means you have an extremely unhealthy business, right? Because if you're the top producer in your brokerage, the reason you're selling is to keep your brokerage afloat because you're paying E&O insurance, you're paying office space, and you're paying for staff potentially and tech support and all of the things. So you may be paying $150 a year to run, or $150,000 a year to operate your business, but you think you have a 0% split, and that's not the case. You're giving away a huge amount of your income to support that operation, and that's something that we don't have to do. I mean, I'm excited and happy every day. I was just in Oahu yesterday doing training with the team. I'm going to Maui next week to do that, Kauai the next week to do that. And I'm constantly engaged with agents, helping them with their business, learning from them and what they're doing and what's working and what's not working, and innovating on our processes and our systems. And that's a huge reason why we've grown the way we've grown is I spend zero time doing contract compliance or doing accounting or anything terrible that exists in the real estate. So
anything terrible. I love it.
Yeah, because a lot of it's terrible.
Oh, a lot of it's terrible. Majority of it. I think again, people don't really understand what they're getting into until they get into it, and then all of a sudden, like, holy crap, I don't want to do this.
Let alone the personal liability if one of your agents gets sued, and that is the other reason I talk to brokers out there, and I'm like, hey, you kind of hover between 3 and 5 agents. Like, why don't you go beyond 3 or 5 agents in your brokerage and really grow your business? And they're like, I can't take the risk of bringing on agents that don't know what they're doing, or I don't have a training department to bring on a new agent, so I just try and keep the ones that I have. And they've put those own barriers in place to their growth and their scale because of the liability that takes place. And I would feel the same way. I would be shaking in my boots right now if I was responsible for 150 agents that could potentially screw up or get sued by, or not screw up, but just get sued by an industry that's extremely litigious. And now my personal home is liable, or my bank account is liable, my retirement accounts, whatever they are. And so, yeah, it would make no sense to grow if you held all that personal liability.
Oh, totally. And you're right. In theory, that's exactly how it works. The reality is the broker, the owner, is the one that's pretty much keeping the lights on, paying the bills. And so he has to continue to produce. Every scenario I've seen it, every scenario, I'm not just saying some, every scenario starts that way. The broker owner is going to be paying and doing most of the business because he has to. And how do you juggle the business, maintaining your income coming in, taking care of the agents, doing the traction, doing the development, doing the systems, doing the training, getting the motivation, rah, excited, getting them to come to work, and then, oh yeah, keeping them out of jail for a real estate jail, right? It's so freaking much. And so that's why you don't grow more than 4 or 5, because you just can't humanly possibly deal with it. And it's just not scalable. It's not scalable at all. And that's my thing too. It's like, I have these conversations with guys who are independents, right? I'm like, why do you want to continue kind of digging yourself a grave? Because that's really what you're doing. And I mean that with love, but you really are. From a financial standpoint, you're digging a grave.
The answer which somebody will give you is ego.
It is it. Thank you. I'm glad you said the word, because I was going to say it. That's all it is. It's 3 letters, EGO, ego. That's your only risk. You're not willing to risk your ego right now because it's too big, right? So your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, your family, your passions aren't big enough, not bigger than your ego, in order for you to let things go and to see things what they are. So that's fine. And I think everybody has a timestamp. Like, Gene Frederick always says, it's like a door, right? Where it only opens from the inside out, not from the outside in. So it's going to take time for you to see what you see. And we'll be here, loving on everybody. I'm doing this whole entire series, like you attended yesterday. This whole entire series designed to help develop agents. And it's broker agnostic, by the way. It's for anybody, like you mentioned, the first airport, anybody and everybody. I don't care what brokerage you're with, because in the day, if you strip all those away, strip all the emblems and the titles and the names away, everybody's a realtor. We do the same thing. Buyers, sellers, buyers, sellers, buyers, sellers, buyers, sellers, every day. And you know what? The reality is we need to come together and unify and help create a community. I talked that word earlier. Community is everything. We can build an amazing community of people that are like-minded, that want to help others and be a part of other people's successes. Then, God, can you imagine what kind of energy we would have here? It would no longer have the stigma, honestly, of these realtors being aligned with used car salesmen. We'd be 2 or 3 levels ahead of that. So
it's like, and in addition to that, it's the consumer, right? To me, our guiding principle is an outstanding consumer experience. And from the very beginning of all of these changes in the industry, and really from day one when I started, I always wanted to try and increase the consumer experience, whether it was for me, or through somebody else. And so from the very beginning, especially in this last 12 months of all of this change, all of our trainings have been open to anybody. All of my scripts are open to anybody. I mean, we have everything on a public website. And to this day, I get agents that randomly call me for advice. And I'm like, hey, you should really talk to your broker. My stuff that I put out there, you can read it. But if you need like a situational advice, you need to call your broker. But they're not getting that, right? And they're not getting that because for whatever reason, they're too busy, or it's not a priority, or whatever it is. But really, the goal is not to like convince you to join me. It's just, I want to make sure that your client is served at a high level, because if that's the case, it elevates you. Like you said, we're an industry together, and it elevates the industry together, and everybody wins. And so, yeah, that's gotta be the goal. It's always that consumer experience.
I agree. And I think if we all come together on the same page, we can really create a massive scale of this. So yeah, yesterday we had an amazing event. Top line speaker, Shereen Duncan. She over $100 million of business last year alone, 2024 by herself.
Personal production. Personal production.
Her team, personal production, which means she's doing a business at a very high level, and she's super humble, by the way. Super humble. Like, oh no, that woman gets after it, and she has zero excuses, which I love about her. And that just really, she puts her mind in a place that she's never going to lose. It's something to be said about that, right? She just never think about losing. And it's interesting, if you can really put your mind in a place where you're never going to lose. It sounds a little arrogant. It sounds a little boastful. But the reality is, what's wrong with having that confidence of knowing you're never going to lose? You're never going to lose that listing appointment. You're never going to lose that client, that buyer rep situation. You're never going to lose that investment. You're never going to lose that your family, being a great husband, being a great wife, being a great dad, being a great mom. You're never going to lose. It's a mindset we need to really focus on and being a part of that. And that's what You Matter series was. She rocked it yesterday. Next month is you, of course. I mean, Dylan's going to come out with a whole nother perspective. How to $100 million business in 2025. You know, and I love it. There's two different scenarios here. Shireen has such a different style of love and emotion and stuff. I'm not saying you don't. It's a different style.
I don't.
But you're more of the analytical and the militant military style, which is, I think it speaks to both people so powerfully. You know, there's people in the audience that really love and drive and gravitate towards Shireen's style and just love that because that's me too. I'm a big crybaby. I'm an emotional bear. You know me. I cry at everything. And then you're the guy that like, dude, let's just show you how all these systems work. I can strategically get you here with no excuses, right? And that'll be next month, literally February 20th. Get $100 million, build a $100 million business in 2025. Dylan Nonaka, he's already proven it. The guy did almost 900 deals last year. So you know what the hell you think he's doing? I think he does. And he's got every system behind every system, behind every system, behind every system to fucking fix that system. That's Dylan. And so if you, that guy or that gal, I don't leave anybody out, that is that kind of mindset, you need to be there. And I'll put this when I promote this YouTube. I'll put the channel for the Eventbrite. It's free to you guys that want to come out. To come check it out and come here, Dylan, 1 to 3 p.m. on February 20th. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, my commitment is it's going to be all tactics. Like there's going to be no theory. It's, you know, no touchy-feely stuff. It's straight tactics. There'll be tools you can use, downloads, you know, processes. I mean, all of that stuff, and most of that stuff is already public that we already do. But really, just, you know, I'm gonna do an hour and a half of like straight up roadmap, processes, tactics, and no BS. So
I love it, and that'll be again put into our digital handbook, which was designed by Kara Crimmins. That girl's amazing. That's way beyond my thought process. But this digital book we have literally is going to be an entire archive of every event we do since last December till December of 2025. And it's going to be in the palm of your phone, which is freaking, wow. It blew my mind how that worked out. So even everything you're going to put in there, statistically and static and data, is all going to be in the palm of your hand and your phone in this digital book. So if you want it, you need to show up and be a part of this. If you want to make some changes, be there. What are you willing to do, like in your life this year? What are you willing to add to your life? What are you willing to eliminate? Because when you add something, you got to eliminate something too. It's the law of balance. We're going to add some things. We got to take some things away. And I can tell you there's a lot of bad habits that I need to take away for sure. And one of them is my cell phone in some way, shape, or form. Is social media, because I'm all over that shit. And sometimes it's just like, whoa, fudge. An hour later.
2 hours later, yeah.
Yeah.
What was I doing?
Like, I just got 2 hours worth of reels that did absolutely nothing for me. You know, I watched 2 squirrels water ski across the swimming pool. What the fuck is that shit about? And I'm like, okay, Chris, get a grip of yourself, man. So we're all doing it. We're all not immune to that. We're getting sucked into that. So, you know, there's a great book that Brett talked about, like how to divorce your iPhone. It's a book he put out. You should read that book, How to Divorce Your iPhone. I need to learn some of that myself. But anyways, we're super excited for this year's of events. You Matter series is full effect. Dylan's going to be the speaker next month. And then I've always loved having you on the show because you do bring the stats and the statistics and the analytics of everything, which nobody can argue on this call, man. If you're listening to the analytics and the stats, you can't argue. If you do, you're just a dumbass. Sorry. I'm just being nice. But you're just a dumbass. If you want to be a jackass and be that person who like wants to argue over everything, over 1 + 1, if you curve it to the left, is 2.5, maybe. No, it's 2. It's always been 2, and it always will be 2. Thank you for giving your piece, Dylan, because you always give that analytic and data point. And I wish you the best success this year in everything you do, bro.
Thank you, man. Always appreciate you in our corner, and always a shoulder to cry on or an ear to listen, and I always appreciate that.
Sure. I'll wait for the shoulder to cry on, bro, because, you know, I'll be the one calling you to cry on your shoulder first, man, if I think you call me to cry on my shoulder. But, hey, that's just who I am. I cry at home alone. That's my gig, man. I'm a crier on movies and stuff, but I'm that emotional guy who's super in touch with his feelings, and I'm okay with that. I will never apologize for it. But anyways, thank you for those who listen. We're excited to kick off this year 2025 podcast, Real Talk with Chris. Did some changes on it this year. Kind of changed some of the hosts, the guests, and the way the structure we're doing it, but I'm excited for it. We're still going to bring the amazing content. Still going to bring the amazing value, and we're going to give everything we can to you guys to be successful this year in 2025. So for all those that are listening, love you guys and appreciate you, and we're signing off until next time. Thank you again, my brother. I appreciate you.